Last night, news broke that Tulsi Gabbard had fired over 100 intelligence officials and staffers who were engaged in a secret adult chat room utilizing government infrastructure that was set up to discuss sensitive security issues. Now, I titled this show, Tulsi Fired 100 Deep State PERVS, Trump Cleans House. I want to give a quick shout out in the chat to Buck, who said, "Is it sexist to say a woman is cleaning house?" Well, I mean, it's Trump's big... okay, all right. It was a funny joke. But it's not just Tulsi firing these intelligence officials. Donald Trump, across the board, is cleaning house of the corruption of the bureaucratic state and their allies in various institutions. So it is, in fact, Trump that is cleaning house. And no, it's funny, but not sexist to say that Tulsi Gabbard is also cleaning house as Director of National Intelligence. The story, my friends, isn't just about this secret sex chat, although it is salacious. Donald Trump has just revoked security clearances for a law firm that is working with Jack Smith. Now, this is absolutely, for those that don't know, Jack Smith, special prosecutor targeting Donald Trump. Trump said that law firm that represents him, take their clearance away. And it seems retaliatory. They're coming out being like, well, I mean, we're just representing this guy in his personal capacity. I mean, we have nothing to do with this. And Trump's like, security clearance is at my discretion, and you have no rights to this privilege. The same thing is true for the White House Correspondents Association, which is losing their minds that the Trump administration has said no longer will the White House Correspondents Association determine who is allowed to come in and ask questions. Jack Posobiec pointed this out. They made one reporter from OAN stand in the back of the room, wouldn't let her speak most of the time. She couldn't sit in a chair despite the chairs were open. It is, as they describe, a cartel in the media to keep out anyone who would try and ask real questions. So the Biden administration largely gets to do whatever they want without any pushback, save, I don't know, Peter Doocy. And then when it comes to anything related to Trump, the entirety of the press can go after him. Until they all collectively decided we agree with Joe Biden's cognitive decline. It was one big lie, wasn't it? So this move made by Gabbard may be the most salacious, considering, can I just stress this to you guys? Federal intelligence officials were operating Kink-themed chats on government infrastructure. You would get fired so fast at any company had you done this. You would never work in that industry again. So, I mean, seriously, imagine you're at work and you work for, I don't know, an accounting firm, and you are using the corporate chat to talk with other employees about deviant sexual behaviors. I want to stress this to you guys because, you know, I often say we try to do a family-friendly show. And what does that mean? It means they may be sensitive topics related to news and culture, but we'll use innuendo or, you know, specific language so that kids are none the wiser. Unless they're smart enough to know what none the wiser means, and they're saying, what's he hiding from me? But, you know, it's like when you spell a word out knowing your kid can't spell, right? Let me just say this. That being said, I don't even want to repeat on an uncensored podcast some of the things these people were chatting. They were talking about doing things to their bodies, which I believe should result in a 5150. What is that? It's involuntary commission to a hospital. What do they call it? Detainment on a mental issue. 5150 is when the police show up and say you are a threat to yourself and others, and we are going for your own safety and other people's safety. We're going to be holding you for a few days. The things in this chat, we were talking about gratification through self-harm that could result in death. And this is on government servers. It is insane. Insane. Tulsi Gabbard fired them all and stripped them of their clearances. The question I have, how did we get to a point where you have people who are clearly suffering from serious psychotic episodes? I am not trying to insult people here. Hear me, YouTube. I am not disparaging individuals who are otherly abled. I am outright saying these people in these chats were showing clear signs of severe psychotic episodes and mental illnesses in these chats, to the point where they were gratifying themselves through acts of self-harm that I won't repeat. It is crazy to me that they stayed and remained in government. Now, some have suggested it's because of DEI. Because if these people were ever challenged on these ideas, they'd say it's because they're LGBTQ plus. But if that's the argument, I say make the argument. The problem is, it goes beyond, my friends, just this notion of whether we agree, a court agrees what the law is. It goes into the greater idea of the hyperpolarization in this country. And that is, if in a D.C. court you said, for the love of all that is holy, look what this person is talking about doing to themselves, the judge there would be like, I agree with the left. Why do you hate gay people? And you'd be like, that action could kill them. They could die from doing that. And the judge is going to say, that is LGBTQIA plus culture. And they'd throw the case out. And the person wouldn't get fired. And the person trying to fire him would get in trouble. That's what would likely happen in a D.C. liberal court. Well, now things are changing. Certainly individuals are trying to sue to keep their jobs. But I hope that Tulsi, Cash, Dan, whoever, Pam Bondi, even RFK Jr., you see even an inkling of this kind of discussion or behavior, you fire immediately. And then they can cry to their unions. I saw one video purportedly of an IRS agent nearly in tears saying he just wants his job back. Now fire them all. It's remarkable to me these government employees think they're entitled to be immune from market forces. And the market forces of federal jobs is the election. The people have spoken. They have said, Donald Trump, please take care of business. And now these people are saying, I should never be fired for any reason. Sorry. The people have spoken. And here's where we are. Let's talk about the news. We got a lot to break down and how Donald Trump is handling this. This is, man, these are crazy stories. Before we get started, head over to castbrew.com and buy coffee. Look at Alex Stein. He is so excited, screaming for Cast Brew. He's got his two times caffeine, Alex Stein's primetime grind, and drink responsibly. That caffeine's no joke. We got Phil Labonte's 2 weeks till Christmas, despite the fact that it's now 2 months since Christmas. But it is Phil dressed like Santa, and he is enjoying himself some gingerbread coffee. Unfortunately for everybody, Ian's graphene dream is currently sold out because this dude has hit the nail on the head with the hammer. Ian said he wanted a low acidity coffee, and we worked with him on creating a blend that people say is not only delicious, but easier on their stomachs. And, well, you're putting Ian through college. The next batch will be in stock in about 4 or 5 days, so we'll return. In the meantime, I recommend Appalachian Nights, my personal favorite coffee, the best coffee I've ever had. It's easy for me to say, I blended it. So literally, we got a variety. Look, my family owned a coffee shop when I was little. I've been around coffee my whole life. And so I know the kind of coffee that I like. It's a dark roast. I said, it's top secret, but I said, here are the blends, here are the roasts that I like, and here are the origins that I like. We brought them in. And I built a flavor profile, made Appalachian Nights. And I got to be honest, I didn't think it was going to sell so well. But it is our all-time number one seller. Ian's Graphene Dream is new, and it's currently taking over, and it will soon take over as number one. But I actually thought Rise with Roberto Jr. was going to be our top blend because Appalachian Nights was just like, I put it together. It's what I liked, and bang, selling like hotcakes. So castbrew.com. But don't forget, head over to rumble.com/TimcastIRL and check out our premium, Rumble Premium only shows. Last night, you got to check this one out. The Green Room behind the scenes with Nick Sorter was amazing. It's 30 minutes, and it's largely, we were hanging out talking about TV shows, and I was smack talking Lost and From and Severance. Less so Severance because I don't watch it. But Nick shows up, and he's just like, you'll never believe what Eric Swalwell said. And we get into how there's a little bit of behind the scenes of how he got this recording of Eric Swalwell a Democrat, admitting to corruption and abuse of power. Wild. But of course, you go to the playlists. We've also got feature-length documentaries. Look at that. Infringed by Lauren Southern and Game of Money. Definitely check those out. Smash the like button. Share the show with everyone you know. Guys, I want to say one more thing. There is this a viral post going around from Tucker Carlson's interview with Ray Dalio. And Dalio says, community is everything. He says, countries with strong community have higher rates of happiness. That is why we launched the Timcast Discord server, and it's why we are working on Cast Brew physical locations through our franchising. It's not about being rich and buying Ferraris. It is about, you guys watch this morning show, but where do you go from here? You watch, you say, I didn't know that. Thank you, Tim. Your show's great. I want you guys to interact with each other, connect with each other, build shows, build content, build culture, invent things, whatever it may be. And so we launched the Discord so that you guys go to timcast.com, click join us, get in the Discord, over 20,000 individuals. And then when you're watching shows like this, there's going to be other people, over 20,000. And if you're working on a project and you need help, this is a community that's going to help build and expand. Community is country. I'm excited for the cash refranchising, but that's another story that was being worked on. It's actively developing. Things are going swimmingly. It does take a long time, but it is advancing pretty well. Let's grab the news from the New York Times. Gabbard says more than 100 intelligence officers fired for chat messages. Well, my friends, we have the video here. The news broke on Jesse Waters' show. Here's the clip.
And corruption and
I'm sorry. Here's the clip.
Well, Jesse, what we're going to do has already been done. There are over 100 people from across the intelligence community that contributed to and participated in this, what is really just an egregious violation of trust. What to speak of like basic rules and standards around professionalism. I put out a directive today that they all will be terminated and their security clearances will be revoked. But the thing here, Jesse, is we got to take a step back because this is just barely scratching the surface. When you see what these people were saying, and thanks to Chris Rufo for putting it all out online, they were brazen in using an NSA platform intended for professional use to conduct this kind of really horrific behavior. And they were brazen in doing this because when was the last time anyone was really held accountable?
Yep.
Certainly not over the last 4 years, certainly not over the last 10, maybe 20 years. When we look at some of the biggest violations of the American people's trust in the intelligence community. So today's action in holding these individuals accountable is just the beginning of what we're seeing across the Trump administration, which is carrying out the mandate the American people gave him. Clean house, root out that rot and corruption and weaponization and politicization, so we can start to rebuild that trust in these institutions that are charged with an important mission of serving the American people, ensuring our safety, security, and freedom.
Amazing. And I'll give a shout out to Buck Naked, who chatted right when the show started. Is it sexist to say a woman is cleaning house? As Tulsi points out, Trump was given the mandate, and she is helping Trump to clean house. And I absolutely love this. Over 100 intelligence officials involved in the deep state sex chat have their security clearances revoked, and they've been terminated. They have been terminated, fired. Let's go. Let's see how the New York Times frames this. I'm sure they're going to be like, these poor individuals were just expressing their love. Tulsi Gabbard, the director of the National Intelligence, said on Tuesday, I love that line. Can I just pause real quick? Tulsi Gabbard, comma, the director of National Intelligence, comma. For those of you that don't know, I donated the max to Tulsi Gabbard in 2020. I am a huge fan. She serves in the military. She is fairly moderate. I believed it's what the Democratic Party needed to survive and stay sane. And they ousted her and treated her like garbage because they're nuts. And I said, Trump needs to pick up Tulsi. She is a moderate. A lot of Republicans like her. She will get you those votes. Trump brought her in. He put her in the best possible position. I love it. Man, you come to me and you're like, how could you vote for Trump? And I'm like, well, I wanted Tulsi Gabbard to be president because her anti-war positions largely. She is a moderate Democrat. I don't agree with her on everything, but I lean a little bit more liberal. And I was hoping she'd save the Democratic Party and moderate them. Well, then Donald Trump said he was going to give Tulsi Gabbard a position. And I was like, okay. I think Trump did a bang-up job his first time around. Not perfect, but it was pretty good. It was a net positive. This time around, talk about a great first month, Mr. President. Woo! And then he brings on RFK Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard. Rubio, I'm kind of like, I don't know, whatever. If Rubio is going to follow Trump's lead, I'm fine with it. Not the biggest Rubio fan, but he's all right, I guess. He's been doing it okay. Pete Hegseth, I was unsure of. Hegseth has been doing an incredible job. I'm a big fan watching this guy work with the troops and treat them like real human beings. That's what we need to see. Then Kash Patel. Oh, bro. When they were like Kash Patel, director of the FBI, we were cheering. And then out of nowhere, Dan Bongino. Oh, man. Talk about, I said this the other day as a joke before IRL started. I was like, guys, I've been thinking about this. I was wondering if maybe last month I got into a serious car accident and I didn't make it because I don't understand how things could be so good. Maybe I went to the good place. This has been an amazing month. But we got to remember, as amazing as things have been, you got to remain vigilant. They say the chat program was administered by the National Security Agency and intended for discussions of sensitive security matters. But a group of employees used it for discussions that contained sexual themes. That's an understatement. Intelligence officials said this week. The chats also included explicit discussions of gender transition surgery, officials said. I'm going to stress this, and just the things that were being said could result in death. They were talking about how they got gratification from these actions. And I think that is horrifying. Transcripts of the chat were first disclosed Monday by Christopher Rufo, a conservative activist who writes for City Journal. Not a journalist, though. Not a journalist, huh? He writes for a journal. He published a major story, but he's an activist. Yeah, right. New York Times. Appearing Tuesday evening on Fox News, Ms. Gabbard said she had issued a directive to fire more than 100 people who participated in the discussions and to strip the officers of their security clearances. She said the chats were an egregious violation of trust that violated basic rules and standards of workplace professionalism. Spokesman for the office said on X that Ms. Gabbard had sent a memo to all intel agencies asking them to identify all employees who had participated in sexually explicit chat rooms on the NSA tool by Friday. Ms. Gabbard put her actions in the larger context of her efforts to depoliticize the intelligence community and the Trump administration's effort to hold employees accountable. The CIA and Ms. Gabbard's office have moved to fire an undisclosed number of employees who worked on diversity issues during the Biden administration. That action was paused by a federal judge who was reviewing that action and was expected to make a ruling on Thursday. You know what's fascinating? A judge barred the termination of these DEI programs. It's nuts. Diversity, equity, inclusion policies are illegal. Now, the Democrats come out and say, no, only sometimes are they illegal. The judges have said there's a way to do it. If your intention is to weight an employee's chance of getting hired on race or identity that violates the 1964 Civil Rights Act, thank you and have a nice day. But they've been doing it, flouting the law, getting away with it. Now, we got to talk about the disparate political worlds that exist. Liberals don't care. They don't care if it's explicitly illegal. They will make up a reason why it's not. So there we go. You know, the reality is, my friends, and you all know it, conservatives generally know what liberals are thinking, and liberals have no idea what conservatives are thinking. Conservatives tend to think that liberals are misguided or ignorant, and liberals think conservatives are Nazis and evil. So where do you think all this goes? The New York Times says, unlike with the explicit chats, there is no allegation of wrongdoing by the officers involved in recruiting and diversity efforts. That's actually completely not true, New York Times. If a recruiter was like, we're going to hire people based on race, that's illegal. That's wrongdoing. And they play this game. And, you know, conservatives play it too. So don't waste my time. Just because your boss told you to break the law is not a free pass for breaking the law. And Lord help me, if I was in charge of any kind of federal law enforcement, I tell you this. You know, people have said, Tim, would you ever get in government? I take a look at Dan Bongino giving up everything he's built to go work in government as a civil servant. You know, some people, there's a viral tweet where they're like, Dan Bongino, his estimated salary was $5 million a year. He's giving that all up to go work for as a civil servant for a couple $100,000. Bro, Dan Bongino made way more than that. I don't know his numbers, but I work in the industry, okay? We run a business. I know revenue numbers. Dan, his show is so big. It's so big. Dude's got to be pulling in, what are we looking at? 8 figures? That's a lot to give up. Wealth, fame, status for civil service. But I will tell you this. If Trump came to me and said, Tim, I want you to go after every law enforcement government employee who was just doing their job and fire them, I'd say, yes, sir. That's the one thing I would do, because it would be the greatest satisfaction of my life to personally perp walk every CBP agent who knew they were trafficking children. You come to me and say, Tim, you do that job. I will do it in 2 seconds. I want to personally place handcuffs on every government employee who broke the law and said, my boss told me to. And when they whimper and cry big, but my boss told me to do it, I'll be like, that's fine. And you'll go to jail with your boss. Okay? Don't cry. You're a scumbag. I'm going to say it again. I say it as many times as I can. Dr. Phil. Now, we know this is true because we've been covering the news on the whole border crisis. Thank you, Mr. President, for sending troops down here to stop this once and for all. I don't think the Trump administration would go as far as me, because I would go to each and every CBP agent. I would go to every manager and say, I want a list of every single Border Patrol agent who worked the border under the Biden administration. I want a name of every file for every child that was sent into slavery, and I am going to personally handcuff them and load them into the wagon and bring them to jail. I will appear at every court appearance, and I will say, this man knew that child was being sold into slavery and prostitution. And he said, my boss told me to do it. And I want to see that person rot for life in prison. You have no idea how you can presume the anger that I have over this. Now, let me just slow down. These people in the federal government who are recruiting on DEI efforts, okay, not nearly as severe as the CBP stuff. All right, we get that. But I would, with a smile on my face, say, you're fired. And they're like, but my boss made me hire based on race. And I'd be like, yeah, your boss made you break the law? Well, let me tell you a story. There's a young kid who grows up in the Bronx. And this is way back when the families are in control. And he joins, and he's doing just, errands. He's a gopher. They say, oh, go pick up the mail, go pick up this, go pick up that. And he's getting paid, and it's all legit. And then one day they say, hey, we want you to pick something up. Illegal drugs. And the kid goes, you got it, boss. Do you think the cops are like, poor kid, his boss made him do it, you're free to go? They were like, you're a drug smuggler. And so, there are so many instances in this world, in this country, where there's seemingly legitimate business. I don't need to make any jokes about the families or anything like that. Seemingly legitimate businesses, and behind the scenes, they're doing something illegal. How about there's a bodega, a corner store, a little grocery mart, and the boss behind the scenes is selling some drugs under the counter. And he tells his employee, hey, look, I got a guy coming by. He's going to pick up a package. I want you to give it to him. You know what it is. And the employee's like, look, man, I just handle the register. I don't do whatever it is you do, man. I just want to ring people up for their Pepsi. And he says, you do this for me, and or you're fired. And the guy goes, okay, you got it, boss. The guy comes in to buy the drugs. The dude hands him the package. Cop walks in and goes, you're under arrest. The clerk goes, no, don't worry. My boss made me do it. The cop goes, oh, puts his gun away and says, sorry about that. We'll come back later. Never going to happen. That's what I can't stand about this. The New York Times saying none of them did anything wrong. Hiring based on race is a violation of the 1964 Civil Rights Act. You want to change the law, you change the law, fine. We can play that game. But I tell you this, I want to see them all fired. Each and every one. And you know what? The New York Times, of course, they're going to defend them, but at least Tulsi Gabbard is firing them anyway. So I will take it. As for those CBP agents, we got CBP out here. There's a big facility down the road. I see some of these guys sometimes. I've actually had them bump into me and shake my hands and say, hey, we're big fans of the show. And I respect that, because these guys aren't the ones on the border facilitating child trafficking. But I hope they all ask themselves, if you were down there and your boss told you to do it, would you? That's a question you better ask yourself. Because I'll tell you this story, my friends. I've never been in a situation like that. I've never been confronted with such abhorrent evil. But I can tell you this for a fact. I would rip my badge off and throw it on the ground and spit on it before I would facilitate anything like that. I worked for a nonprofit when Deepwater Horizon happened, the oil spill. And they told us to go out and fundraise off of this disaster. Now, little old naive me, I thought it was great. I was like, man, we got an oil spill? We need to get on top of this stuff, man. Figure out how we can make sure these things don't happen, clean up efforts. And so I went out with a smile on my face and I waved to people and I said, please donate. We're a political group. We're trying to build awareness and interest in the government around these issues to make sure they don't happen. The information they gave us on Deepwater Horizon was wrong. It was wrong. And I had a guy get in my face. And he's like, you're lying. And I was like, no, I'm telling you what's happened. And he said, no, actually what happened, it was a little different. The amount of oil being spilled was less. And I said, oh, I'm sorry about that, man. I guess I got my numbers wrong. And he was like, yeah, well, maybe you should stop asking people for money if you're not going to give them the truth about what's going on. And I was like, okay, well, now that I know I'm wrong, I won't. So I appreciate it. They said, okay. So I get my cell phone, and it was a candy bar phone at the time because it's 13 years ago. Longer than that, actually. This is 15 years ago. And I called the office and I said, hey, the information we have on the information sheets that you gave us are wrong. Can we get the update? Can you correct this? And they said, no. I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to fundraise to people off of false information. That's like fraud or something. And they said, okay, well, just keep fundraising and keep using the pitch sheet as it was given, and we'll fix it later. I said, I'm not doing it. Bye. And so I stopped. I refused. I went back and said, don't you dare try to tell me to lie to people or knowingly provide wrong information in exchange for money. Because I will report you in 2 seconds. And they're like, no, it's okay. And they corrected the information later. And guess what? Boy, did they exaggerate the numbers. I won't play these games. These people should be in jail, breaking the law with smiles on their faces. I don't play that game. Now, we do this clip the other night from Timcast IRL. And I think it's interesting. Nick Sorter made this point. I'm not going to play the full clip because obviously if you watch Timcast IRL, you've seen the clip. But an important point about these chats is not just the weird kink perverted behavior. Nick Sorter pointed out they were talking about hierarchic libs of TikTok in these chats. Weird. He says if they are calling libs of TikTok a terrorist in these chats, were they reading her emails? Were they reading her text messages? If they did, jail. Agreed. Nick was saying it's got to go further. It cannot just be that they're being let go. Oh, man. Here's how the Washington Times framed it. National security employees engaged in transgender sex chat room while at work. Ay. You wonder why so many parents were being called terrorists in Loudoun County particularly. Because they were upset at the abuse their children were going through. It's because at the NSA, at the highest levels, these psychotic, mentally unwell individuals were running the show and propagating this stuff to schools through the use of force. And it's about time we cleaned it up. Now, let me just say, when I say mentally ill, understand, YouTube, I'm talking about in these chats, there were people talking about self-harm for pleasure. That is not normal. That is mentally unwell. There are terms for this in the DSM-5. We are not talking about a little old LGBTQ individual who is trying to live their life. We're talking about people who are advocating for and glorifying self-harm for pleasure. Okay? That could kill people. That is not okay. And these people wanted to propagate their fringe psychotic views to the rest of the world and to our children. And law enforcement was weaponized against any parent who resisted. No more. Now, outside of this, of course, Donald Trump is cleaning house in much the best way. This is my favorite element of the cleaning house story. So please gather around, children, and join me in this beautiful tale of how Trump gutted the White House Correspondents Association and ripped their cartel to shreds. To shreds, I say. Trump admin guts White House Correspondents Association in bid to end monopoly of D.C. journalists. The White House Correspondents Association has determined access to the White House for decades. I got to make sure I'd be remiss if I didn't pull up this tweet from Jack Posobiec, where he points out just how egregious. What is going on, Google? They're not giving me Jack's X account. There we go. That was weird. Let's see. I want to pull up this image, so bear with me for 1 second, where he shows you just how despicable the White House Correspondents Association really is. There's a lot going on that Jack's been tweeting about, that's for sure. And this one's from the other day, so let me, what is one? Let's go. He's talking about Romania. That's big news, of course. Here we go. We got it. Here it is. This is Chanel Rion in 2020 being forced to stand in back of the room by the White House Correspondents Association while you can see seats are clearly available. I don't really know what else to say. This is just completely indefensible behavior towards her and always was. They have never even apologized. They made her stand in the back. She's with a news outlet on cable television, and they taking pictures of her. She's the story because she's outside of them. She can't even sit in the empty chairs. Y'all need to understand how evil these people are, how deeply, deeply evil they are. They view themselves as a mafia. I'm not exaggerating. There are these people who want to be a part of, and we can call the mafia in terms of any clique, insider group. They feel like once I get in to that clique, to that cult, to that mafia, I will wield the power too. Nick Sorter was telling us a story where he was in the Capitol or whatever, walking around, and someone yelled at him that he wasn't allowed to be there without credentials. And he thought it was somebody who actually worked for the government, but turns out it was a journalist. And he was like, what? Yep. They're like, this is our turf, ours. You can't be here. These people need to be fired. And Trump is doing just that. White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt says the White House press team will now determine the rotations and which outlets get access, upending decades of White House Correspondents Association supremacy. Leavitt clarified that legacy media outlets that have been prominent within the WHCA will still have a presence at briefings, and that the 5 major television networks will still be relied on to broadcast White House events. Quote, I am proud to announce that we are going to give the power back to the people who read your papers, who watch your television shows, and who listen to your radio stations. Moving forward, the White House press pool will be determined by the White House press team. Legacy outlets who have participated in the press pool for decades will still be allowed to join, fear not. But we will also be offering the privilege to well-deserving outlets who have never been allowed to share in this awesome responsibility. Libby Emmons of the Post Millennial has her press pass for the White House. I have applied personally as well. Still waiting to hear back. Yeah, it is what it is. I'm not going to, be too pushy. But a lot of people want us, me especially. I mean, look, if I did go, it would be like once every few months, so I'm not really going to cry about it. But despite the fact that many people don't like that Elad Eliyahu is a communist, Elad, he does ask great questions in a dispassionate way that is indicative of good journalism. And I hope you give him credit for that. On Timcast IRL, Elad called for a wealth tax on billionaires to seize unrealized gains. I don't think he quite understands tax law or income or corporate law or anything like that, but he did. And we argued with him. And bless his heart. All that being said, as much as we deeply disagree with his stance on war and taxation, he'd probably get along with Hillary Clinton. When it comes to asking questions, he does so in a very straightforward, dispassionate way that is very useful to the average person. So I respect that. The announcement comes just days after the Associated Press sued the Trump White House for denying the outlet access to the briefing room, Air Force One, and other exclusive areas. Can I just pause real quick and tell you how psychotic these people are? Could you imagine if during the Biden administration, Timcast filed a federal lawsuit against the Biden administration because he wouldn't let me on Air Force One? You'd be like, the Democrats would be like, what does Tim Pool think he deserves to be on Air Force One? I'm a journalist. I know they like to say I'm not, but cry more. I'm a more prominent journalist than any one of those people. Yep, I am. And there's no difference. The idea that the AP should have unfettered access to Donald Trump's office whenever he wants is insane. It started with the Oval Office. Trump said, we're going to do some signings. Why don't we invite the press in? Not you, AP, because the AP wouldn't use the phrase Gulf of America, for which the Gulf of America is named. Strange, they wouldn't call it that. And they said, you can't tell us what to report. He's like, I'm not. I'm just telling you you're not allowed in. They said, we'll sue you. And he's like, you're going to sue me because I have to let you in my house, my office? Get out of here. No, they lost. But think about the choice of words. The avarice, the arrogance, the greed and gluttony and wrath, all just balled up into one. For these people to be like, we have a right to be in the Oval Office. You don't. Donald Trump chooses to let people in. I don't recall Joe Biden letting people in all that often or answering very many questions. Heavens me, these people are beyond arrogant. So I always got to make sure I highlight what the free press really is. Now, to be fair, the freepress.net, it's just some nonprofit. But here's thefreepress.net in 2019 calling for the banning of Alex Jones. These people are hypocrites, cultists, ideologues, and mafiosos. They're a cartel. The media is their tool, and no one be allowed to enter. And when Alex Jones was prominent and massive with hundreds of millions of views per month, they colluded to destroy him. Now let's jump back into the deep state. A story that I covered the other day, but I definitely want to get into now. And there's more to it than just this, but I want to make sure I highlight this story from a couple days ago. CNN actually ran a story that said CIA agents are going to sell state secrets to foreign adversaries because Trump fired them. Let me just stress this for you again. We've got Tulsi Gabbard. We've got, Dan and Cash, Pam Bondi. These individuals overseeing their respective departments, and they're trying to get rid of corrupt influence. CNN then says, in an article, they warn that intelligence employees who get the axe are valuable and that those same employees will sell national secrets if fired. Oh, it says, well, which one's true? This is a crazy story that justifies everything Trump is doing. They say CNN wrote how Trump's government-cutting moves risk exposing CIA secrets. Isn't it fascinating how they play this game? How Trump's government-cutting moves risk exposing the CIA secret. Well, it sounds like what they're saying is, by cutting the budgets of the CIA or otherwise, security will be lax and information pertaining to our secrets could leak out due to a failure of proper administration. The reality is what they're saying is CIA employees are untrustworthy spies who will steal U.S. secrets and sell them for profit. Okay, they should be fired immediately. You know what you do? Here's the trick. Everybody knows this. When you're firing an employee, you deactivate all of their stuff abruptly and without informing them. You boot them out of every chat room, every email server, access to all social media, and then you let them go. Why? Because if they retain access...
well, Jesse, what we're going to do has already been done.
See, I don't know why that Twitter just auto-played. That's kind of weird. But anyway, if you let someone retain access to every system and then you fire them, they're going to download every system and they're going to screw you over because people are evil. Not everybody. I'm saying there are people that are evil. I do want to stress, my friends, you know what's fascinating is I think a lot of people don't understand the true depth of human depravity. There are many people who do, but I do believe that most people don't. I think there are a lot of evil people out there that are totally malicious. I believe they align themselves more typically with the Democratic Party, largely because the Republican is a loose affiliation of disparate ideologies. Like, look, I'm post-liberal-ish. You know, I'm not a Christian. Don't follow doctrine or anything like that. But I can have conversations with Christians and try and understand their views on things and, you know, whatever. These disparate ideologies came together for truth and accountability. Though we disagree on many core issues, much to we may offend each other, we still recognize there's important things to work together on. The left, you've got people just lie every day for literally no reason other than to gain power. And it works among stupid people. This is the terrifying reality I think people need to really understand. You know, when you, they say, as the saying goes, when you find success, everybody comes out of the woodwork. When you come into wealth and money. And I can't tell you how much I've experienced. Now, when you have a lot of followers, when you're prominent, you have a big show, everybody's staring at you. So it's like the saying, out of sight, out of mind. Well, the inverse is true as well. All of a sudden, people I hadn't talked to in 20 years were asking me for money. And I'm just like, it's a weird thing because they don't know how much money I have. They don't even know if I have money. They assume it's true because I'm famous. And then I get a message from someone I talked to in 15 years, and we were never great friends to begin with, acting like we were the best of friends and all the great times we spent together. And I'm like, bro, you were like my friend's friend. We hung out sometimes. And then when I don't respond, they attack me. How dare you? Look what you've become. Who are you? I thought I knew you. And I'm like, bro, I barely knew you. So much of that. Worse, I've had people. There's one dude I knew I was a great friend with. Lived with him briefly. We hung out together all the time. Went online and started making up lies about me for clout. And I'm like, this is so weird, bro. We were like best friends for a handful of years, you know, and then you drift apart, whatever. Never had any beef. Like straight up hung out all day, every day, skateboarding, you know, like my go-to best friend goes online and just starts lying about me for clout. This evil really exists. And the reason I bring this up, and I'll stress this too, for the average person, there's a lot of guys out there who totally get it with getting divorced. There's a lot of women out there who totally get it with their deadbeat dads abandoning them, going for some scratchers and never coming back and leaving their kids behind. That kind of stuff you see and you get. And a lot of people understand. Backstabbers are out there. When you experience it, really is shocking. Now, the reason I bring that up is not to say, oh, woe is me, bad things happen. No. You can, who cares? I don't care. Bad things happen to a lot of people. I'm a man. I can take it. I'm saying, think about all those scenarios, and now think about the people who are at the CIA who need to be fired. The guy who's sitting there thinking like, stupid Donald Trump, I'll show him. And then they sell secrets because they're evil. They're evil people. How about this? How many intelligence officials are going to leak private details of stolen information on prominent individuals to liberals and leftists to sow chaos and destroy people? Because I warn you, that's coming. They're going to release private information. This is the emails they've hacked or stolen or they fabricated to try and discredit and harm people. AI videos, relatively silly right now, but what happens when they become indistinguishable from the real thing? What happens when audio comes out and it purports that Dan Bongino said something untoward? How can we believe it? And there, things will break down. That Tucker Ray Dalio interview was really interesting because he was mentioning, like, with AI and all this stuff, you're either going to have total anarchy or total authoritarian control. I don't know how we can exist in a system like this. What I can say is abject evil exists. Boy, I didn't believe it. When I was younger, I thought there was no good and evil, only intentions and degrees of, my view was like, everybody's just trying to improve the lives of their friends, their family, themselves. They're out for their worldview, the world they see, and they want to improve it. And I don't think they're necessarily evil. They're just trying to come up, as it were. And that's kind of true, but evil exists. And there have been circumstances where I've seen people engage in actions that are abject evil for seemingly no reason, just to cause suffering and pain, and they gloat and laugh about it. And when I see that, and then you take a look at these stories about, like, hey, they're going to start selling state secrets, I'm like, yeah, they are. Yeah, they are. And Tulsi's got to get on top of that. I imagine that maybe the most stressful thing for her right now is when she's entering in as DNI, she knows these evil individuals are already turning the gears to sabotage and destroy and harm this nation and its people. And how do you get in and track them down? It's like that cartoon where they're in the boat and the hole pops and they put their finger in it and they put a finger in it here and then they put their toe in it. It's not going to be easy. That's why we got to clean house, because you can't just sit by and let it happen. Now, Donald Trump, this one's beautiful. And I know the Democrats are going to whinge about it, but I'm happy. Trump signs executive action targeting law firm representing former special counsel Jack Smith. The law firm says it's representing Smith in his personal capacity. The Democrats say this is retaliatory. I say, and I don't care. Trump signed an executive action on Tuesday targeting a prominent law firm that represents former special counsel Jack Smith. The memo strips Smith's attorneys of his security clearance, as well as any other attorneys at the firm who assisted Smith while he was investigating Trump. Covington and Burling, LLP, said it is representing Smith in a personal capacity, and a person familiar with the matter said there is no evidence the law firm played any part in Smith's criminal investigations of Trump. The memo Trump signed Tuesday, a major escalation in Trump's targeting of those he believes to be his political enemies, also directs the Office of Management and Budget to review any government contracts held by the law firm. There should be no person who, for political reasons, targeted Donald Trump, no person with access to a security clearance or top secret or confidential information. These people, during the Biden administration, use the power of government to try and stop Trump from winning. And if they get access to the inner workings of national security secrets, will sabotage this nation to try and harm Donald Trump and his administration, guaranteed. Trump has no choice but to make sure these people are removed from this access. Now, again, the Democrats will cry and say that it is retaliatory. It's a law firm. Why is it going after lawyers? I don't care. Joe Biden and Democrats in Georgia and in Minnesota targeted Trump's lawyers. They tried to put his lawyers in prison. Okay? Trump is simply saying, if you're representing this guy who did these hyper-politicized things, you cannot have access to privy government information because they're going to use it against this country and they're going to use it to his benefit. So no. Quote, one law firm that provided pro bono legal services to the special counsel's office under Jack Smith's leadership was Covington and Burlington, Will Shorf said about a memo that Trump signed. As a result of those actions, we're now going to be suspending and putting under review the security clearances for the attorneys and employees at the firm who worked for Jack Smith's team. And we're going to continue holding the people who were responsible for the weaponization of government who supported accountable for what they did. A reporter asked Trump whether the action to strip the attorney's security clearance amounted to political targeting. Trump cut the reporter off and said that he was the target. I've been targeted for 4 years, longer than that. So you don't tell me about targeting. I was the target of corrupt politicians for 4 years and then 4 years after that. So don't talk to me about targeting. a person familiar with Covington's representation of Jack Smith's, responded to Trump's action saying, there's no evidence the firm itself played any role in special counsel Smith's investigation of Trump, and no evidence the representation of Smith had anything to do with his official duties. Separately, Covington is not a contractor to the federal government. Anybody who's there who has clearances for any reason should have it revoked. This is not a question of whether Trump should be vindictive. It's a question of Jack Smith is corrupt. And if his lawyers have access to government information, they can use that to aid and abet a corrupt individual. For the removal of all conflicts of interest in the representation of this man, they should not have access. They should not have security clearance. That information, sorry, they can easily represent Jack Smith in whatever capacity. And if they choose to, that's what's going to happen. Security clearance is not a right. It is a privilege. And the president determines who and when someone gets access. I have no problem with this. The spokesperson for the firm added they recently agreed to represent Smith in an individual capacity and look forward to defending him. For more than 100 years, Covington has represented clients facing government investigations, consistent with the best traditions of the legal profession. We recently agreed to represent Jack Smith when it became apparent he would become a subject of a government investigation. Covington serves as defense counsel to Jack Smith in his personal individual capacity. We look forward to defending Mr. Smith's interests and appreciate the trust he has placed in us to do so. Did it all occur to any of these people that if individuals in that law firm have access to privy information, it may relate to Jack Smith's case, and so they're removing a conflict of interest by severing this connection? As special counsel, Smith led probes into both Trump's handling of classified material and his efforts to overturn the results of the 2020 election. Both cases were dropped following Trump's re-election in November due to a long-standing DOJ policy prohibiting the prosecution of a sitting president. It is really fascinating, my friends. There's more than just this story. There are many stories. James O'Keefe, he was being investigated over the Ashley Biden diary. Gone. Just dropped. There were very many investigations that were explicitly political. And as soon as Trump got in, they evaporated. Now, why is that? Why did they just determine that all of a sudden we're not going to go after James O'Keefe? The reality is James never did anything wrong. You'll never convince me he did. Why? Because James has a crack team of lawyers who advise him on what he can or can't do. So for one, this proves outright there is never any motivation or intent to break the law. James O'Keefe consults with legal teams, more than one, to make sure he's doing everything correctly and by the book. And if at any point something happened that could be construed as a crime, the simple answer is it was a legitimate error. And then we navigate that probably in a civil manner, should it be the case. In the instance of Ashley Biden's diary, James O'Keefe tried handing it over. He says, we don't want to have any part in this. And they went after him over it. It was retaliatory, targeting a journalist. And then, of course, when Trump gets in, it's by the book. It's a fake investigation. Done. Oh, boy. And there are many others. Here we go. Things are starting to heat up, my friends. It's a lot of news. Now, I was originally thinking about leading the morning show with this story. FBI investigating claims of Comey-era honeypot operation against Trump 2016 campaign. Yo, this is wild. Comey, the FBI, federal government, had honeypot individuals embedded in the Trump campaign, so claims a whistleblower. Kash Patel, they have begun. I can't wait for Dan Bongino to get in. Digging into 2016, 17, 18. Oh, boy. We know the Russiagate hoax, how it's a lie. The Ukraine hoax, the impeachment hoax, all of these hoaxes. And they used federal law enforcement to frame Donald Trump as a traitor to his nation. Now, the gloves are off. In Trump's first term, he played ball. It was a mistake. But we liked him. I was not a big Trump supporter for the most of his first term. I was like, it's fine. It's whatever. I mean, I don't know, He fired Tomahawk missiles into Syria. I said it's not a good thing. I kept saying, stop making me defend the man. He did not do the things Democrats are claiming he's doing. It was so weird because they really could have beaten Trump if they just stopped the histrionics. And then I was a big fan of Andrew Yang at the time. He's fallen off. These people are so desperate. It's so pathetic. Okay, let me tell you what honor is. Honor is me saying, I think in 2020, Tulsi Gabbard can save the Democratic Party. She has shown honor, integrity. She's in the armed forces. It is respectable. Don't agree with everything she's got planned, but she's been very reasonable on these issues and critical of the war machine. Honorable is when they throw her under the bus. I maintain my position. I keep saying I'm still a fan of Tulsi Gabbard. And then what do we get? Andrew Yang and Bernie Sanders turncoat. They make all these claims. Bernie Sanders, talk about a scumbag. Tulsi Gabbard rejected endorsing Hillary Clinton and instead Bernie Sanders, and they roasted her for it and came after her for it. Bernie couldn't even vote for her. The man has no honor, no dignity. See, what I can respect is this. Individuals in the first or at any point who genuinely were wrong or believed something, and then when proven right said, I was wrong about that. I love to quote Jordan Peterson when he was asked by that, was it Jim Jeffries? He's like, do you think that a business should be able to deny service to people? And he's like, they can deny service wherever they want. He says, what about black people? And he's like, well, maybe I was wrong about that. It's that simple. No ego, just, oh yeah, well, I hadn't considered it. For me, I like Tulsi. I like RFK Jr. I was liberal leaning, fairly moderate. And when the Democrats betrayed them, I stayed true to myself. The only position I really swung hard on was 2A. I was very much like, I don't know, whatever. Maybe there's gun control. Had a bunch of conversation. I said, that's a good point. If you want to ban guns, change the Constitution. And now I'm much more, probably the most extreme 2A person there could possibly be. And I'll explain to you exactly how my views changed on that one. When it comes to policy in this country, I'm still very much where I always have been. Yeah. They don't want to admit it. But I even told Sam Cedar, I actually think we need more regulations. Not regulations like what they're doing with employment. I'm talking about tartrazine, Red 40. We should be regulating these chemicals out of our food. I'm for that. That's why I like RFK Jr. So where do I end up? Much in the same boat I've always been, saying Trump, he did a decently good job, net positive. Then he brings on Tulsi and all these other individuals, and I'm like, this is the best I've ever seen. But you get Andrew Yang, you get Bernie Sanders, you get these Democrats who are supposed to be moderate, and then as soon as the cult tells them to jump, they say, how high? Me, I said, I ain't jumping for you, you scumbag. I was like, I believe what I believe and I want what I want. And Trump delivered it in spades. He said, Tib, you like Tulsi? We'll bring on Tulsi. And I said, I do. She's fantastic. She's one of the best leaders this country has. RFK Jr., Maha, I'm 100% Make America Healthy Again. It's one of my you know me. I got our spin drifts. We don't like the refined sugars. Although to be fair, we did buy a bunch of Pop-Tarts recently, but we're allowed every once in a while. We try to be healthy and exercise. And we order flour, Allison and I, and it's imported where they don't have glyphosate because we're concerned about these things. I love Maha. Trump looked me in the eyes, figuratively. Well, I actually did. I met him twice, interviewed him. And but figuratively, he looked you and me in the eyes and said, I'm going to compromise with you guys. I'm going to get you what you're asking for. When the Libertarian Party said, free Ross Ulbricht, Trump said, okay, I'll do it. And then when he gets elected, they ask him, why'd you pardon Ross Ulbricht? He says, well, I didn't really know much about him, but I promised I'd do it, so I did it. Talk about honor. Because that was the one sign to me. Trump had no incentive after getting elected to actually follow through. None. He could have been like, thanks for your vote, libertarians, and they would have grumbled, but he up for election again. But Trump actually cares about, Trump has scruples. They try to attack him all day and night and insult him. And what does he do? He says, libertarians, I told you I would do it. You have honored me. I will honor you. Man, I look, Trump, not the most honorable guy in the world, okay? Got a lot of baby mamas. He's a reality TV guy. He's a bit off the cuff. He doesn't represent great nobility and chivalry, but he's more honorable than I've seen in the White House in so long. And then we get Dan Bongino. Dan Bongino embodies nobility, honor, chivalry. I love it. I love it. This guy is a paladin. He is a warrior. Because when the time came and he was called to duty, he accepted. And he walked away from riches. I get it. Dan's rich. He'll be rich forever. But you got to understand, man, even when I'm talking earlier in the show about like if they came to me and said, Tim, we want you to oversee all of the government employees who are breaking the law, and that's going to be your job. And I'm like, I would do it. The ramifications of that, what it means for my family and my life and the people who work here, it's scary. The people working here are probably now crossing their fingers, hoping no one from government ever comes in and says, Tim, we want you to head up the department of, like internal terminations or whatever they would call it. Because oh man, I don't want to run for office. I don't want to be anybody's boss. But you tell me, I get to go and do reviews of law enforcement who broke the law and weed out corruption with a smile on my face. But Dan Bongino was called to serve. And he said, okay. And he walked away from a lot. He's walking away from a lot. I respect that tremendously. It's very, very difficult to do. But with that, I see honor returning to this nation. And I'm glad to see it. We got a lot of news coming up later on. I do want to grab your super chats and a couple of your Rumble rants. So make sure you buy Cast Brew coffee. Go to castbrew.com. Hey, you want to open your own coffee shop? We can help with that. If you click that button franchise up top, we got all the information about what you need to open your own coffee shop with our assistance. I don't want to say too much about it because there's a lot that we offer and a lot we don't. My goal, which is not a guarantee, okay, what I'd like to do is when a new Casper location opens up, we actually fly out and have Timcast IRL at the grand opening, and we do the show from the shop and bring in a bunch of locals to come and hang out. I hope we can pull that off. It depends on the legalities and how franchise law and all that stuff works. But that's what we're aiming for. And we've got a handful of people. We had over 100, and now it's way more, 100 location requests. So don't forget to also go to rumble.com/TimcastIRL. Take a look at our playlists. We've got the Green Room podcast with all the behind-the-scenes conversations. Some are fun, funny. Yesterday's was super chill. If you want to hear me insult Lost, From, and Severance, like the gist of it is, they make these shows where they're like, a random nonsense thing happen. Oh, bro, let me tell you. Let me do it right here. I was like, let's do this. Let's end every green with a mystery. And what we'll do is, this is what these shows do. We got this little, look at this little bobblehead beanie skateboarding Tim Pool someone made for me. It's really cool. I'll put this on a shelf. And then when we're wrapping up the green room, we'll play a screeching noise and everyone will go, ah, and then look, and then we'll look over and the little doll will be moved and it'll be on the railing, bobbling its head with strange music box, ding, 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 ding. And then we'll look at each other and go, it can't be. Cut to black, to be continued. And then you're like, what happened? Nothing. They literally have no idea what they're writing. They're just like, end the episode with some weird thing happening to confuse everybody. And then the next episode starts and you're like, what was it? I don't know. So I haven't, to be honest, I couldn't get past the second episode of Severance. I just turned it off. I'm like, oh, sorry, not interested. But From and Lost are that. We talked a lot about that. I don't know, whatever. Let me grab some of your super chats, my friends. We got a couple more minutes here. Deplorable Pirate Captain Gunbeard says, congrats, Tim, on becoming not the mama. Yes, dinosaurs. What a good show. Yeah, it is based. Baby wakes up crying a lot, but it's okay. You just got to make sure the baby's taken care of. And it's very hard to be the mom. So shout out to Allison, who is incredible and does a really great job. And is doing a really great job even right now, taking care of baby. And thank you all for the congratulations. It is truly the best experience ever. Y'all have no idea. It's funny, like all the people out there who have kids are sitting there smiling because been there, done that. But the other day, I was holding my daughter while watching Fox News, and it was just like the best thing ever. Just nothing better. Nothing. Literally nothing. And if you don't have kids, my advice is just don't wait. Have them sooner rather than later. Look, I got to tell you, man, all the tropes in movies about like the baby is crying and things like that, and people are annoyed or whatever. The only thing, look, when my daughter's crying and upset, I'm thinking two things. I hope there's nothing super serious and it's just normal crying. Sometimes she just cries. She wants to be held or she's hungry or whatever it may be. But I am the opposite of annoyed by anything. I had someone chatted saying the other day, just wait till she won't stop jabbering with like an eye roll or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, no, I'm going to enjoy every second of it. Like everything the baby does puts a smile on my face. I'm here for it. Let's grab some more super chats. Way More the Owl says there's a reason it's called Not Safe for Work, people. Indeed. Let's grab some of these Rumble rants for you from our friends. Revel Esto says, when you start building cash-proof buildings, please look into Bullhead, Kingman, Lake, Havasu area in Arizona. Also, Elon should partner with DMC and make a cyber DeLorean. Well, the way it works is you guys own the business, not us. The brand of Cast Brew, we sell products online. It's a multi-million-dollar business at this point. It's incredible. Really, really, I'm honored and privileged. It is one of the most successful endeavors we have. It's an extremely valuable company at this point. We sell a lot of product and we make a lot of money there. We've pulled no profits. I take no money from Cast Brew. We are using all of the revenue because let me phrase it like this. If I woke up with $1 million and someone said, Tim, $1 million clean, you can do whatever you want with, buy whatever you want, I'd be like, I want a place where people can hang out, get together, and build community. That's the purpose of Cast Brew. So when y'all buy Cast Brew coffee, admittedly, well, when you buy Graphene Dream, Ian's getting paid. When you buy Phil's getting paid, or Alex, because we give royalties to everybody for their likeness, for selling the coffee of their brands and their design. Ian came up with the idea for the low acidity coffee. We worked with him on making the blend, and it sells like hotcakes. So he gets a good cut. Good for him. The money the company makes, I don't take. We are not spending money on ad buys. I think we may have done like a little bit at one point just to see. I don't know if we've done yet. We want to do like Google ads and stuff. I think actually we did. I think we did that commercial with Ian in the chicken and the rooster. But we want all that money to invest in building up this network. So here's what happens. Cast Brew is a support network. We handle branding, promotion, marketing, and all these things. But we want with the franchises, you guys to be the owner of these businesses. You make the money. You run the business. Decentralized. I don't need to be the CEO of a major company where I oversee 1,000 corporate locations. Maybe we'll get there, whatever. But if you guys apply and you want to open your own shop, the costs are all listed. It's heavy. Not everybody can do it. Jason Swank says the correct answer for Elad is no more income tax. Instead of flat federal sales tax, taxing money spent would naturally tax the wealthy more since they spend more money. I wish that were the case, but Elad doesn't understand what wealth is. I'm not exaggerating, nor am I trying to be a dick. He doesn't understand the concept of imaginary wealth. That is, this little thing right here, which is really cool and it's got a bobblehead, a little skateboarding Tim Pool, was made by somebody. And the total cost of materials may be $50. If you put it on the internet, you could maybe sell it for $60, $70, somebody who wants it to decorate. But this is the official Timcast bobblehead as seen on Timcast IRL. It's got more value now as it is scarce and a collector's item as it has appeared on a prominent show. What's it worth? $2,000? Okay. Elad would argue that because someone gave me this, by virtue of me being famous, I now owe the government $400? That's wealth tax. That's stupid. And he was like, maybe just, Jeff Bezos. And I'm like, okay. Jeff Bezos' wealth is tied to his equity stake in Amazon. If he sells pieces of his company, he gets money for it. That's it. He doesn't actually make that much money. I think his salary is 83 or whatever. He is paying tax on the income he gets. Silly. All right, my friends, we got a little over. So I'll grab one more here. All right. Hammer says, Tim, please get the word out to Trump to free Matt Hoover. He was tossed on a two-way beef over some BS. It's a BS seer novelty that couldn't even function as a machine gun. Which one? Was it the guy who had the metal card they called a machine gun or whatever? I don't know enough about it, but I'll do my best and bring it up when I can. My friends, smash the like button right now. Share the show with everyone you know. Say, hey, the Tim Pool Morning Show, Monday through Thursday, 10 a.m. is the best show. Everyone agrees. At least that's what I've been told. And become a member of Rumble Premium. Go to timcastpremium.com. Use promo code TIM10 to join Rumble Premium to get access to all of our behind-the-scenes content, members-only premium content, feature-length documentaries, more to come, as well as Mug Club. That's right. When you sign up for Rumble Premium using promo code TIM10, you also get Steven Crowder's content. Isn't that great? That's what network effect is. His members get my content. My members get his content. We get more members. Everybody's better off. Our viewership is up like 70, 80%. Like it's nuts. So I'm going to our sales guys and I'm like, we need to build a new deck because our views are like almost doubled. We're doing almost 300,000 views on Rumble and we're doing over 300,000 on YouTube for Timcast IRL. Isn't that nuts? That's almost double. We were doing for like Timcast IRL, like I think it's like 500,000, maybe 600,000 across the board on everything. It's almost to 1 million now per episode because we've added Rumble to the repertoire. Is that the right word? Wrong word. We've added to our distribution methods. Anyway, I'm going to wrap things up, my friends. We got more segments coming up. Next one will be at noon and then more to come. It's going to be fun. Thank you all so much for hanging out and we will see you all in the next segment.